All right, good evening and welcome to the City of Sunbury Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. It is November 25th, 6:30 p.m. Would you please join me in a moment of silent prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance? Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Mayor St. John,
Here.
Mr. Gokenhour, absent. Mrs. Miller,
Here.
Mr. Grumney,
Here.
Mrs. Crawford,
Here.
Mr. Soderman.
Here.
5 present. We have quorum.
All right, this evening, we're going to begin with a public hearing. This is a rezoning for planned development, Kiwi Clubhouse. The anticipated process is the applicant presentation, staff report, public comment, commission questions and comments. And again, any item that has a public hearing in planning and zoning will also have a corresponding agenda item later on in the meeting. In this case, it looks like it's approximately. We have a separate item for this?
Yeah, it's the first one on the second page.
Thank you. There we go. 1, 2, 3. So it's the 4th item on the agenda. All right. With that said, I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Vic Whitney to lay out some of the fundamentals related to the public hearing.
Thank you, Mayor. As the Mayor indicated, my name is Vic Whitney. I'm legal counsel to the Zoning Commission tonight. As he indicated, the first item on the agenda is this rezoning application submitted by KCH Investments concerning property Sunbury Estates Lot D. This is a public hearing. As you may be able to tell, there's a stenographer who's unfortunately not with us tonight. It's my understanding she's a little under the weather, but she is on Zoom. So this hearing is being recorded and as a public hearing. In a moment, the mayor will ask the applicant and then anyone else who may want to offer comment on this application in turn to come to the lectern to offer that comment. So if you, as the applicant or anyone else here that may be want to give comment or testimony as to the hearing, in a moment we'll have you stand and we will swear you in because it is a public hearing. You need to be sworn. When the mayor directs you to come to the lectern, please come up and right off the bat, say into the microphone clearly your name and your address so that we can get a hold of you later on if we should need to, and then proceed to make the comment. We make sure that we direct all our comments to the commission. There may be questions that are asked by commission members. If so, please let them ask the full question before you respond. Again, with the stenographer here, it's really difficult for her to take down 2 people speaking at the same time. So with that said, anyone that thinks they may want to give testimony on this KCH Investments rezoning application, if I have you please stand and raise your right hand. We will swear you in. Do you swear and affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God, and under penalties of perjury?
I do.
Thank you. And before turning it back over to you, Mayor, I would like to introduce and move to admit exhibits. I've got Exhibit A, which is an 8-page document that includes the application and the legal description submitted by the applicant. Exhibit A. Exhibit B is a 4-page document, which is the public notice and proof of mailing to the affected property owners. Exhibit C is a 6-page document, which is the staff report of the Sunbury Planning and Zoning Commission that was directed to the commission members. And Exhibit D is 32 pages and constitutes the remainder of the submittal application, including plans and the development text and related materials. So with that, I would move to admit into the records Exhibit A through D.
We accept. Thank you. All right. The first item in the public process, in the public hearing will be the applicant presentation. I'd invite the applicant to come up to the lectern and introduce yourself. Name, address.
This is for Keith Credit.
Yes.
My name is Robert Giuliani. My address is 5031 Red Bank Road, Galena, Ohio. I am the general contractor for the Kiwis Clubhouse.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Floor is yours.
All right. So we presented previously last month. Is there anything from our side of the presentation? I don't know, are you putting anything of ours up tonight?
We did not have a presentation submitted. So we
Was it
were,
not the same? I'm sorry, was it not the same dot?
I think you had it on a flash drive the last time and we didn't transfer it over. It was just
Gotcha.
still on that flash drive.
Gotcha. So, from our standpoint, we don't really have anything new. There was nothing new presented to us as far as that. If you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer those. Or if anybody here has any questions on the project itself. Okay.
All right, we'll move to the staff report, and if the commission has questions, we'll call you back up.
For
Does that
sure.
sound
Is
good?
that fair?
Yep,
Great.
thank you. All right, we're gonna move to the staff report.
The applicant is requesting approval for a rezoning and the associated development plan. The development is for a daycare and preschool facility, which will consist of a single building with a fenced-in play area. The applicant is requesting 3 divergences, the first being to waive the tree survey and tree replacements as the site has no trees. The second being a reduction in off-street parking requirements for a daycare facility. Based on our code, 24 spaces would be required, but due to a limited amount of space, the applicant is requesting 20 spaces, which they believe will be sufficient. The third divergence is a reduction in the rear yard setback to 27 feet from the north property line adjacent to Miller's Cove instead of the required 100 feet. The applicant justifies this by stating that the proposed layout will have a minimal impact on the neighboring residential area. The applicant also submitted a photometric plan indicating that the lighting from the rear of the building won't extend to the nearest residence. The rear of the building is also non-use and will have standard egress lighting.
Thank you. I did have one comment. When I was reading through, I believe there's one more divergence that the applicant did call out. It was related to trails. They aren't going to be installing trails because of the accessibility and trails. So I think we need to just update the record that there are 4 divergences. Thank you. All right, we're on to commission questions and comments. Any questions, comments from the commission?
I'm confused about what you just said on the multi-use trails because they said they had already been constructed, it was already part of the parcel. So does that mean? I don't understand the nuance we're doing.
There are no trails on this particular property.
Okay. That statement is incorrect.
Did you want to ask the applicant what they meant by that?
Could you, on your last page about the multi-use trails, your statement says multi-use trails are already constructed and part of this parcel. Are
So-
there any on the parcel?
You know, I don't know that answer. I do. I'm trying to remember if there is a sidewalk on Harrison Drive already, which I believe there is. No, there's not. Yeah, we're not opposed to putting in sidewalk. So if it's required in the area, we have no issue with that.
I guess my question then would be to you, and I'll ask it again when we're in a really detailed, is I'll ask you about the interaction you plan with the Inn at Walnut Trail and how you plan on getting there if there's not a safe path.
So I'm not 100% familiar with the trail you're speaking of, but if there are sidewalks that would come to my
It's
property.
not a trail, it's the assisted living center beside you.
Okay. Why do,
A lot of daycares and preschools interact with assisted living facilities, and I didn't know if that was in your plan.
it is not. I'm sorry. No, and that would not be part of their product.
Okay,
Any other questions for the applicant? All right, I'll move to close the public hearing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Please stick around. Excuse me, do we have an item?
I don't think you asked for public comment.
I'm sorry, I did not. Are there any members from the public that were sworn in that would like to speak with the commission? I apologize. All right, I will move to close the public hearing. Thank you so much. All right, next item on the agenda is the commission review conditional use 157 South Vernon Street, Conan Cameron. We're on to commission discussion. Is the applicant here? Applicant is not here. Okay, Mr. Blankenship, would you mind giving us a recap of our time obligation and what we're required to do tonight?
Yes, so the time obligation, I believe, to pick step in, if I get any of this wrong, is 30 days from the last meeting, which I believe today would be the last day to make a decision, leaving this open. This was not tabled at the last meeting, so a decision has to be enacted today on this. The applicant is not here to give updates on what you guys requested from the previous meeting. And I believe like that is all. So you guys will be making a decision either to approve or to not approve this conditional use.
Approve with conditions or not approve.
Yes, that's right. The other thing Alex, you may want to at least indicate there were attempts to reach out to the applicant.
So I reached out to the applicant the day after our last public hearing, going over exactly what you guys said you would want from him, listing the specifications, going down to the parking lots and just getting more specific details on the project. We volunteered. If he gave us those details, we could chart it up on a map of some kind. I didn't receive a response for that. And then 2 weeks after that, I just reached out again, asking if there was any kind of update he wanted to provide or any questions that he had for us. No response. And then I reached out to him at the end of last week, just reminding him that the commission was going to hear him again today, and I did not receive a response from that either.
Okay.
So can I ask, you didn't speak to him? Each time it was a voicemail and email, there was no.
Yes, I left one voicemail and then everything else was email. So the other 3 listing out the specifications was via email, and then reminding him that today was the meeting date was both over voicemail and over email.
So it would be my recommendation to the commission that to the extent a motion is made, it is made in the affirmative as to approve or approve with modifications, not to deny. The mover and the second can vote however they want, regardless of the motion, just based on the way the zoning ordinance reads. It takes 4 votes to affirmatively approve a motion. So to the extent, however, the commission that would come out, you know, if it doesn't seek or if it doesn't receive the 4 votes affirmative, then that would operate as a denial. So I would suggest that the motion made is in the affirmative to approve or approve with modifications if the commission members have any. Make sense?
Yeah, just another, excuse me, general question. What is his recourse for denial beyond this meeting? What's the next step?
For the record, he could file a lawsuit for relief in the Court of Common Pleas in Delaware County.
I'm looking for some clarification. I apologize. So approval with conditions, but is there a timeline set for those conditions to be met? And if not met, we revoke the approval? Is that how that works? Or
if there were conditions that the commission were considering, and if it were approved with those conditions and those conditions contained a timeline, then yes.
okay, so he would continue to operate with an exception until that timeline, and then when that timeline hits, whether or not those conditions are met determines whether or not he can continue forward.
I would say without saying exactly what the motion is, that would be right. So
I feel like, but just I'm not trying to interject too much here, but I feel like if we're approving conditions based on a future date, and then the applicant does not do them, I feel like that doesn't revoke the conditional use altogether. That would be a zoning violation at that point, right? Like if we enlisted 5 conditions,
right,
he violates 1, that doesn't completely revoke the conditional use, does it?
that would be a zoning violation. Yeah, I think you're right about that. It would be. So, right.
I mean, I had notes. I went back and re-listened to the meeting. We were starting to make progress, but there was still a significant ask from the commission about what a more solid plan would look like, including trees, flowers, setbacks, materials, parking spaces, dimensions off the building. We were talking about screening of trash enclosures. I mean, we just didn't get the detail. And I know specifically Mr. Grumney asked for a visual rendering or something that we could see. Without the applicant here, it's very difficult.
I would
Any
be
comments?
comfortable making the motion that we accept it with the 10 staff recommendations and giving him 6 months, and then allow that would give us an opportunity to say yes or no to that based on what we've heard from staff and attorney. Because we have to put a motion forward to say yes or no to it.
And other than, if he doesn't meet these conditions, it's a zoning violation, but he's still able to operate, like, he could potentially just, like, how long does this go on for?
So I mean, again, so I think to the mayor's question, if you're approving it with conditions and it's approved as a conditional use, if he's not in compliance with any of those conditions, then that would be a zoning violation. That would be subject to enforcement under the zoning ordinance.
Right, I understand that. I guess I'm just wondering what beyond that, like, how long will he just remains in business and he pays a fine, or like, what happens once he's?
There's penalty provisions which are misdemeanors. And so mayor's court, there would potentially be a complaint. Alex would undergo his process of, citing him and then there ultimately potentially could be criminal complaint when the zoning violation filed, and then he would be subject to those misdemeanor penalties.
My overall concern is just, I know when the applicant was here last month, it was vague as far as what he wanted to do. There was no real firm committal to the things we were suggesting, and which the reason for the request was to come back with either just a sketch of what you plan you can do and those sorts of things. And by non-responding to the city 3 or 4 times, not being here tonight, it just makes me concerned that the path forward to me is definitely we'll be going to zoning violations, because if you're not responding to the city on these requests, or even to assist, not even requests, just to assist to put some type of new document together within the last 30 days, and there's been no response. I'm hesitant to think there's going to be a response when they aren't met and there's zoning violations. But it's just my thought right now.
This seems very complicated to me to put together on the fly conditional conditions. I mean, this seems like we're backed into a corner here I like your idea.
I plan on voting no.
Okay, I like your idea of a yes with conditions, but I don't know how I could have enough time to weigh those conditions.
And I think if we had gotten a response or some type of information, we could have built those conditions for
Yeah.
the last 2 or 3 weeks.
Right.
But
Could have collaborated, right?
yeah, right.
Okay, I agree with the situation we're in.
Well, I will move to approve the conditional use at 157 South Vernon Street with the 10 recommendation listed in the staff report, and giving them 6 months to resolve those conditions.
We don't need to read the conditions. You can enter that as an exhibit for reference, or how would you like to do that?
Yeah, I would just say maybe the conditions referenced can you date the document?
It's page 3 of the Alex's memo to the Planning and Zoning Commission dated October 21, 2024 on page 3.
Great, thank you.
All right, we're looking for a second.
1 second.
Got a second by Mr. Grumney. Discussion? Roll call.
Mrs. Miller,
No.
Mr. Grumney,
No.
Mrs. Crawford, Mr. Soderman.
No.
Mayor St. John.
All right, next item on the agenda, commission review rezoning plan development, Northport Residential Hotel Metro Development. Anticipated process, we have the commission discussion. We have the applicant here. Any takeaways from our last meeting from staff? The items like to review?
I was just gonna follow up on the request to the city of Powell regarding any tax matters. Just to share the brief conversation we were able to have with them. So the city's finance director spoke with their finance director and city manager regarding the issue of tax collection at a residential hotel. On the tax question, the response essentially was that it's too early for them to know how difficult the compliance is in terms of tax collection. Because the operation has only been open for a few months and they've not collected any RETA data to necessarily show that. What they did say though is that from a use perspective, they do feel like it has fit into the community. It does provide an additional product. It does seem to be providing value to them in that respect. I did have a chance to speak with the applicant a little bit here earlier. If maybe there was some way that we could work closely with the applicant to at least get routine listings of residents which would help us on the tax collection side. It sounds like they've done that in another community, so that may be a way for us to address that.
All right, the item that I wanted to mention, we received a letter from the applicant's legal counsel. And I wanted to just mention for the Planning and Zoning Commission, the criteria for approval, being that this is the Planning and Zoning Commission, and this is a request for a rezoning to planned commercial district. The three that I'll highlight are: if the proposed development is consistent in all respects with the purpose, intent, and applicable standards of this zoning ordinance, the purpose of the planned commercial district set forth in S81.15.11.1. Number two, if the proposed development is in conformity with comprehensive plan or portion thereof as it may apply. And number three, if the proposed development advances the general welfare of the city and the immediate vicinity. With that said, our legal counsel has also drafted, and this is Vic Whitney and with Mr. Bream's approval, our law director. For the purposes of addressing the question whether a residential hotel is permitted use under the Sunbury zoning ordinance planned commercial district, the opinion is that a residential hotel is permitted under planned commercial district under section 81.15.11.3 for these reasons. Commercial establishments normally associated with and intended to service the traveling public with motels, gasoline, auto service stations, convenience stores, which sell gasoline, restaurants, travel, trailer parks for overnight parking and other allied activity, or other commercial ventures not prohibited by this or other sections of this ordinance, or like or similar nature. It is their further opinion that because the proposed residential hotel is a permitted use, the commission has the authority under S 81.11.09 to recommend to Sunbury City Council that the rezoning be granted if the commission determines that the criteria for approval as set forth, as I mentioned earlier, include the three items that I just read. If the commission does not determine that the above criteria for approval have been met under S 81.11.09, the commission has the authority to recommend to the Sunbury City Council a modification to the requested rezoning, or that the rezoning not be granted. There we go. All right. Any questions, comments from the Planning and Zoning Commission?
The applicant, Mayor, just for clarification or on what you just read?
Pardon me?
On what you just read or to the applicant themselves?
We can ask it. It's open to the Planning and Zoning Commission for discussion and comment.
Okay, I have a few questions if that's all right. Sure. Okay, thank you. So I've been doing my research on this product and trying to get my arms around it. And long story short, I'm still a little confused. So I'm looking for your guidance on maybe clarifying some of the questions I still have. So you know, I saw Ms. Miller write the same thing too about general welfare to the public. Sorry, I didn't mean to blow your cover. But so think about general welfare. So our current apartment complexes, they have the same type of amenities, you know, pool, maybe a workout facility. One thing that I feel this particular product is missing, and we've talked about it, is green space, kind of that open livable space for those in a community like this. But that being said, so again, in the document here, it says that for these types of products, there's a lobby with a 24-hour staff, management, security, fresh linens and towels throughout occupancy, general upkeep. So my first question, are those things provided on this particular product?
By request only.
Request
So
only.
the occupant has the opportunity to order those additional items as a la carte.
Okay.
The portfolio that we offer. So these applicant or residents could order it fully furnished.
Right.
They can have it unfurnished. They can have linen service, cleaning service, and other services that we offer. There's also associated parking garages where it's additional parking spaces for residents. So there's other amenities for the residents that they can order as part of the package that we choose to have. A lot of our corporate clients traditionally have it furnished, as well as linen service, cleaning service, those items. Other clients do not, so it just depends on the client itself.
Okay, thank you. And then going by the 30-day requirement, it has to be at least 30 days or more. You know, I know of folks in close proximity that in apartments, and they've leased an apartment for 3 months, 2 months, 4 months because they're building a home and they need that extra time to do that. And of course, they're charged extra because it's a shorter lease for that period of time. How does this leasing or this contract for 30 days, 60 or 6 months, 12 months, whatever, differ from doing that just in a typical apartment complex and saying, hey, I need to stay here for 3 months. I know I'm going to go real simple here, but rent's $1,000. You're going to charge me $1,500 per month for the 3 months because I know it's a shorter lease. How is that different than what you do on a month by month basis?
Well, it's almost similar to what you just explained. Again, it's all based upon the actual client's preferences and what they need as far as their term of stay. So if we have a consultant in their typical, I guess, their agreement with their employer or their employee or a company that they're doing consulting-based workforce, like a 6 month stay, they're not going to enter into agreement for a year.
Right.
So traditionally, if it's a corporate client and they have a minimal use of the actual property itself, then their actual stay is much shorter. But if someone's building a house, for example, and they need 12 months for that stay, then it's based upon that time frame. So there's terms and conditions for them to stay much longer than a year, much shorter year. The minimum is 30 days.
Okay, but in essence, though, if you look at an apartment in this product, you have the ability to stay for a shorter term, but pay a higher price because of the shorter lease contract.
Yeah, correct.
Okay. And then, I think, okay, so then my last question is gonna be kind of the bring it all home type of question, but so I guess I go back to my original point. I'm still struggling from a resident side, not necessarily from a business side. I'm not sure about your business model. And again, we don't know about taxes and those sorts of things, but for the residents, what is the benefit to the resident for your product versus if I were to go to one of the apartments around here and just ask for a 3 month lease while my home's being built versus your product? Because the difference I see is, you know, being able to have the linen service and maybe a furnished apartment. That seems to be in this discussion, what seems to be the key difference.
Well, I think the key difference is our business as far as how we run it. You know, our business model is to work with corporate clients to find them housing so they don't have to have their so-called human resources or relocating department or things of that nature go out and seek out short-term housing. So we've done this for 25 years. Build a list of actual clientele that we work with on an extended period of time. this gives that, actual operator an opportunity to find housing on a quicker basis than looking at, throughout central Ohio for housing, that's available in a shorter term with furnishings, with linens, with cleaning service, all those things that they may need for their consultant or their employee. So it's just one of our, portfolio items that we offer as a company. And like I said, mentioned Alex before, we've worked with the Columbus Crew. We're more currently working with the Columbus Fury, which is the volleyball, professional women's volleyball organization. They know that we have housing throughout Central Ohio with different types of opportunities. And this is one of those, housing, like I said, fits each, a unique type of structure that people are looking for. So, and, really, it's not necessarily the difference between the apartment and the residential hotel, it's the location where they are. We're not placing apartments in a commercial corridor, and we're not placing residential hotels in a residential area. So it's the distinction of the type of use, which is a residential hotel, type of, basically zoning use is a residential hotel. So we've always put these in commercial corridors. This is right adjacent to 3637. It's going to be adjacent to the future Sunbury Parkway. Of course, it's right down the street from 3637, which is a quick jump to a lot of large employers throughout Central Ohio. So it's the location that's more important than the actual type of product or type of uses. We call it an apartment and a residential hotel. All of these residential hotels that we've done are always commercial areas, which means they're a lot more dense. The structures are a lot closer together. The open space is not necessarily a criteria that our clients are looking for. The nice aspect of this one in particular, but we'll have access in the future to Sunbury Parkway trail system, which ultimately will connect to other amenities throughout this area in particular. But the clientele is not looking for those particular amenities on site. They're typically working at a lot longer time frame than they would be if they lived in an apartment. A lot of times, like I mentioned, they're consultants. They're trying to serve a need for their customer, so they're at work most times. So it's just sometimes it's just a place for them to sleep at night and go back to work. So it's kind of that aspect of it. And, being proximity, like I said, it's a very close, short distance from other larger employers in Central Ohio.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Sure.
I guess I would conclude after our lots of conversations and meetings we've had that I would recommend to your company to put together a packet for doing future presentations to governments, giving websites other than just stating the state of Ohio, what a residential hotel is. Because this is a new product and that we're not aware that we had preconceived ideas what those words meant. And like when someone comes to us with a single family home, we already know what that entails. We know what an apartment entails. We know what a condo entails with the HOA. And we know what these variety of products are. But a residential hotel, there were so many nuances that it took a while for us, I think, to grasp what we were looking at. And that's where, when we're looking at, does this meet the law and everything, we're looking at the general welfare of the city. This is a brand new product to the city. What are we accepting into our city and what does it do to our staff? What does it do to our residents? Not excluding what does the product bring. So I think that would be helpful because it is a very confusing product because of the extended day hotels that most people think is a residential hotel. And you have to get past that and get into the nuances. So that's what I would recommend to you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Alan. I have one question, kind of a product related question. There's 154 units, I think, planned. Suites. They're all single and 2-bedroom suites.
Correct.
What's the maximum occupancy of a 2-bedroom?
4.
Okay, this is where I have a problem with this product. When I moved into this city, in 2016, I had a very difficult time finding a place because I have 3 children. And I see that this product would have done me no good because there are no 3-bedroom units. And it's very uncommon. What I found in my experience, my personal experience, was the lack of 3-bedroom apartments or residential hotels is a significant deficit for people who have families. And I would encourage you to try to be the provider of a product that can help families that have more than 2 kids. It's more than just a comment, I guess, about this. I think the product is okay otherwise, but I had a very difficult time and I ended up in a bad situation that I didn't like. And I was like, man, this is not working out for me. So.
Not getting off subject here, but within our apartment communities, that is exactly what we've heard in the past. Because as a company, we've been building since 1964. We've started offering the last 5 years 3-bedroom apartments because of those conditions. Now, there's many other conditions why we've done it, but there is conditions that families are moving in temporarily and they need that 3rd bedroom because of their family situation.
Right.
So we do have now in our portfolio, which, like I mentioned before, we've never addressed that before in the past. So Ravines and Meadow Ridge has roughly 10% of 3-bedroom units. They're right behind this community.
Well, I can tell you just a little bit more. I moved to a school district, not necessarily to a city. We wanted to be Big Walnut schools, and we had to find a place to be in Big Walnut. So, is there a reason why 3-bedroom units cannot be included in this plan?
This one's only change schools, so I don't know if that answers your question. It's just
Darn it.
Sorry.
It's more of my whole thing.
So it's the size of the. We would have invested that effort into this. It's just it's such a small footprint. Just to be transparent to you all, we have already had this product approved in the township. So it was approved as a residence hotel, same unit mix, the type of units. The conditions were, from a standpoint of their conditional approval, so that was much different than what we have applied for in the city of Sunbury. So it was one of those applications, but it was just the size of the site. We have a larger community of this nature. Traditionally, they have 3 bedrooms, but it's just the fit. We're not able to fit in 3 bedrooms. It's a bigger fit. What it comes down to is a 3-bedroom.
Or fewer units.
Or fewer units, correct. So it's just from the standpoint of the feasibility and economic standards of this type of development, it didn't fit within the type of density. So.
Thank you.
Any comments or questions? Ms. Crawford? Anything? Mr. Thomas, I think when I went back and heard everything, and I agree with Mr. Grumney that this product is just difficult to understand. I mean, to us on a piece of paper, it looks like a multifamily apartment building. It feels like it. There aren't many differences that I can delineate. I understand that you're meeting the code for that. The Ravines at Meadow Ridge is a different product than this because it's planned residential. There are different requirements with planned residential, like open space requirements, and I'm just going to say open space requirements primarily, but also when it comes down to setbacks. And when I was looking at the 9 variances or divergences that were requested, 4 of them were related to setbacks and decreased structure separation. And I think what, at least from what I recall in the Ravines discussion was, we did approve certain divergences because, there was this preservation of open space. There was, a connection to the woods and the ravines. And when you drive back there, especially in that new section, you really feel that. And in this particular example, I couldn't wrap my mind around, like, why does it feel like just the entire site is being plopped down and it looks like concrete and buildings. And I think I figured it out is because you're coming in under planned commercial and you're requesting 9 divergences and 4 of them are really intended, or the outcome has been that, you eat up your open space. I mean, you push the garages to the far boundary. You have a certain amount of parking that you have to fit in, and the rest is parking lot and building. And I did go out, or at least research the Nolan's Reserve in Powell. And I saw that building layout was completely different. It was set back off of a main road, and, it has this really nice courtyard in the middle of it. I mean, all the buildings kind of face, out, but there's this huge enclosed courtyard. It reminds me of something you would see like on Ohio State's campus, like some sort of dormitory or something. I mean, a really nice pool. The site is 8 acres. This one's 5, right? 6. Yeah. I mean, so it just had a different look and feel than this particular product. But I just wanted to mention that. I think that's where you're getting a lot of questions. I'm really glad that you brought up that you do have an approved development plan with the township. I think that maybe would have helped earlier on in this discussion, but thank you for bringing that up. Any other comments or questions? All right. We're required to take action tonight, right?
We were within the 60-day timeline. It does require action within 60 days. I think probably we would be on that if we were to kick it out again. So
Be at the 23rd. Nothing like a Christmas week or Thanksgiving week.
There
Meeting.
is on July 3rd,
Right.
4th of July, so. That'd be good.
All right, so we're just looking for a motion.
motion, and again, motion, yes. Motion in the affirmative.
Now, I have one other question just before we make a motion here. When you drafted your letter, Mr. Whitney, and it says has the authority to recommend to city council a modification to the requested rezoning or rezoning not be granted. In either of those cases, how do you frame up a motion being made?
Well, again, my advice would be similar to the last one because of the operation, the way the ordinance works. My suggestion would be that a motion is made in the affirmative. And then because the action of this commission is made on the affirmative votes of 4 members. So to the extent, again, not assuming what may or may not happen, but if there's not 4 affirmative votes given, then it would be by operation of denial of that motion. Rather than making a motion to deny, and then would you need 4 votes for that? And then it gets all weird.
Okay.
So just make it an affirmative vote or an affirmative motion, and then the results of that will be self-evident.
And this goes to city council.
Then it will go to council, and they'll again have a opportunity for hearing there within. I think it's again they have to post.
Right.
So it's within a timeline 30 days.
30
after.
days, yeah.
Yeah, and then the council can ultimately, by a 3/4 majority, not adopt whatever recommendation is made here. So that's within the council's discretion.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Second. Discussion. Roll call.
Mrs. Crawford? Mr. Grumney?
No.
Mr. Stotterman?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
Mayor St. John?
No.
That's a 3-2 vote. Yep, thank you.
Motion denied.
Motion denied.
Motion denied.
See you at city council. All right, thank you, sir. All right, you're on to. All right, team, a lot of paperwork up here. Moment, please. All right, commission review rezoning plan development Kiwi Clubhouse. All right, any questions, comments for the applicant? think we were talking about sidewalks. So it does look, I pulled up a map. It does look like there's a sidewalk on the southern boundary of the property that connects. Basically, you're putting one onto Harrison.
I looked at it, so the existing one behind the fire department is existing. And then we have our plan to attach to the community one that I'm assuming is already there. On Harrison Street, we will look one on Harrison Street.
Okay. And I don't have the latest rendering of that. There are sidewalks along Harrison Street on the east side. Correct. I can see one on the west side for sure. That backs up to the, I forget what it is, Charles Schwab building. We'll pull up a Google map here just to make sure. And while we're pulling this up, I do want to make a clear delineation. They are still requesting a divergence from the trail. Multi-use trail is not a sidewalk. So they are talking about putting sidewalks in. There are no multi-use trails in this particular area. And our code changed to require multi-use trails 2 years ago. This development, specifically the patio homes and what I call the 1804 buildings, or the white buildings to the left, northwest, those were not planned to have multi-use trails at the time of approval. Since then, our code has been updated. Okay, so there's a sidewalk on the southern boundary running from northwest to southeast, and you're talking about adding a sidewalk northeast. Is that correct?
Yeah, east and down.
East, okay.
On the other side, where the cursor is, yeah, that side there, that's Harrison there. So we would add that, portion of the sidewalk. So what I'm assuming we show it as existing in front of Clark, Stephen Joseph property. That shows.
Could you come up to the microphone?
Oh, actually.
Yeah.
On Harrison Drive, we propose adding a new 5-foot concrete sidewalk. That would be connecting to what looks as if there's an existing sidewalk already to the property that would be to the north.
Okay.
That's what our plot shows. I think it's just kind of hard to tell here. I live on the house, in the house.
Can you come up to the microphone, sir?
Here,
You come up here and introduce yourself.
there is no.
Do you mind coming up to the microphone, sir? This is being live streamed. Do you mind coming up to the microphone, please? Thank you.
If I can show you, there is no sidewalk along here up until you get to my property.
Okay,
There is sidewalk over here.
I can't see where you're pointing, sir.
Point to the other.
West, more or less the west side.
There's a TV over here. Can you grab the microphone and, never mind. We're not,
Yeah, this
We're not
sidewalk along here, but there is no sidewalk along here up to my house. Okay, it stops when it gets to my property.
Got it.
On this side of the street.
Thank you, sir.
This is sidewalk on Tippett Court, which.
Thank you.
Hope that helps.
That does help. It looks like the applicant's ready to close the gap, right?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, we've got that buttoned up. Any other comments or questions?
One of the things is we usually get to see a little bit of landscape, and I didn't notice that in last time or this time, what kind of landscape was looking at. Did I miss that?
Yeah,
I missed it then.
Last time, it did not. It was somehow left off. So you are correct in your thinking, but it is, we do have it now.
Okay, so there are trees you're putting in.
Yes.
Okay. And those, that hedge, is that north?
So, is this the hedge you're speaking of?
Yes.
So that would be the north boundary, yes, to the residential side. That would be here.
Okay. I do want to compliment, I loved the light reflection survey.
Great. Thank you. Like I mentioned in our previous meeting, this is our fifth one, and most of these are in communities like this, so we, try to respect the areas where we're going into.
It's definitely needed. Any comments, questions? All right, I'll make a motion to approve.
Second?
Second by Mr. Grumney, discussion? Roll call.
Mayor St. John,
Yes.
Mr. Grumney,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes,
Mrs. Crawford, Mr. Soderman,
Yes.
5 yeas, motion approved.
Thank you.
Next item, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Commission review lot split. One moment. All right, so that was a rezoning and Kiwi will be back in front of city council in about a month. Okay, great. Probably the first meeting in
I
January,
was gonna say, probably the first meeting in January.
maybe January 8th.
I was gonna say, which we've not settled on the date. We'll get that in front of council, but yes. I'll keep you posted on when that is, for sure. Yep.
Thank you. You're good to go. That's an approval. Thank you.
Yeah, okay, we do have somebody representing the applicant.
All right, we have the commission review lot split, Kephart Fisher LLC. All right, we have the applicant here. Hello,
My name is Monica Brewster, my address,
business address is fine.
207 North Fourth Street, Columbus, Ohio, 43215. And I'm here in place of David Fisher, who typically would handle this.
Okay, great. All right, so you're requesting a lot split, maybe just a general overview of the parcel, where it's at.
So there's going to be, this is the first of a series of 3 minor lot splits that are all owned by Sudbury Holdings Company LLC, and they're lands adjacent to the new Southern Energy. So they're working with ODOT right now in connection with these parcels to work out some right of ways. This parcel, however, additionally, this lot split is not impacted by that. So once they have that agreement worked out with ODOT, they'll be back for the other 2 lots.
Okay.
Great.
All right, any background? This may be new. I don't know the last time we did a lot split, so some of the commission members may not know our obligation, what we should be considering. Staff or legal counsel?
Something about legal counsel.
So upon the submittal, you're, again, this is from the zoning or the subdivision regulations. So was there any technical review done by staff or anything like that, or support or anything done? It's commission determines whether it's not contrary to applicable plating, zoning and subdivision regulations will be approved. So that's essentially it. It's not a huge process.
Yeah.
But I was just gonna add, we don't have a site plan on this particular parcel. So the lot split precedes that, as I understand it. Again, it's one of what it sounds like. There may be additional lot splits. So that there's a little bit of a question regarding that. Although having said that, this land was previously zoned, and it does have a zoning designation under it. Again, it's not clear necessarily what the long-term use is for this particular plot. I wish I could tell you that, and I doubt you can tell me that. Yeah, so a little bit of question there, but I don't think it's inconsistent with our expectations of what's happening at that parcel near the soon-to-be new interchange.
If I could also add, the applicant said this was going to be 3 minor lot splits. If it was more than 5 lot splits, it would be a major. So that's like a major subdivision when we look at like residential areas. So these would all be, assuming even if they did them all at the same time, they would all still be minor.
In my interpretation, they're just basically trying to create these parcels to be able to market them, perhaps go into contract on them, sell them, use them. This is still subject to our comprehensive plan and everything. This is a necessary step to prepare it for market and development. Okay.
And I have a copy of the deed, which I believe may have already been given to you guys, as well as the written development.
Great. All right, any questions, comments?
Could we see this up on the screen where this lot is, just to make sure that what I think I'm thinking is where it actually is?
Yeah, the roadway doesn't exist yet. So
Well, I was looking at, that's 71 and Tanger, so.
That's right. Yeah, you can have that. So imagine Wilson Road running south
Okay.
and then in the middle of that, or at the south end of that parcel of Sunbury Parkway.
Yeah.
Running east to west.
South of the green box there, the green box is the parcel we're talking about.
Yes.
And this lot split is piecing off the left section
Yeah,
Gotcha.
right there. Yeah,
yeah.
that's correct.
Okay.
Maybe just ask David Fisher to make it easier for us to understand next time. Thank you. Thank you.
You need anything else?
I think you're looking for an approval. All right. I'll make a motion on the approval of the lot split. Second by Mrs. Crawford. Discussion, roll call.
Mayor St. John,
Yes.
Mrs. Crawford,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Grumney,
Yes.
Mr. Soderman,
Yes.
5 yeas, motion approved.
All right. We're on to Sunbury Commerce Park Commercial Local Provisions. And we have the applicant, Sir Dana Donnell, here.
My name is Dana Donnell. I'm the managing member of MPA Commercial Property and Local Provision. My address, 12453 Monkey Hollow. So I wanted to kind of bring the board up to speed with respect to what our project is. We have named the center. This is located on the corner of Sunbury Meadows and Granville Street. It's in front of Vince's apartment complex. So the name of the shopping center will be Local Provision. We can go up. I'm going to show you a few elevations so you understand some concept. This particular shot would be from the rear of Vince's development. So from the apartment complex looking towards Granville Street, you can see the retention pond in the forefront. And the next, this is front elevation from Granville Street, looking at this is one phase of 3 phases in the project. So this is in the back section of our lot. This front elevation. This is the elevation standing on my east property line, looking west. So that'll give you, I think that's that will give you a feel for what our intentions are. Next. So an overview, and you do have a packet which should follow with this. The overview is, I would like to move the building from its original site plan that was approved to the west. I want to seek the approval of 2 decks off of the back of the project. And the ability to submit a landscape plan to the board when it's ready. And to address parking issues. So on the next page, you'll see, I think that, yeah. You see the original site plan, it's the building, and we're talking about the rear building with the red circle around it. It's pretty much pushed to the east property line. It's our desire to relocate the building, pushing it to the west. So the building is right on the corner of the floodplain. And the reason that we desire this is it then creates, so the next slide, if you go up a little bit higher. Yeah, there you go. So it creates a green space that we were really kind of missing in the other section. it also creates a pretty nice outdoor dining experience. It also moves the building, it centers the building more on the retention pond, which is, I think, is a part of the experience on those deck areas in the back. Okay, so that's the issue with moving the building. Should we pause and talk about as we go through these, or how do you want to?
Sure. And this is informal, so not looking for action tonight, perhaps coming back next month. Is that correct?
Yes, that'd be great.
All right, sounds good. And,
Oh, I'm sorry.
no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, for my own clarification, so this building circled in red is moving from the east to the west side, and that is closest to the apartment complex, and then going north of that along Granville Street, there'll be another section of commercial, whatever that, but that has not been defined yet or established.
There's no change.
Okay.
On those two buildings.
Okay.
All the phase 2 and 3.
Okay.
From the original zoning approval.
Gotcha. Okay, so phase one remains the building we're talking about now.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I wanted to just mention that I think I gave planning or city council last week a quick overview of you coming in and proposing this. And I said, the gist of it, of what I get is he's trying to create more open space, use the land a little bit more effectively. That's not a typical request that we get from a developer. So thank you for doing that. Thanks for looking at the user experience in long term.
Sure. Well, I'm glad that it serves the viability of the project and also is a positive.
Yeah.
move. Yeah.
I have a comment
Yeah.
about the pond. Full disclosure, I live in Sunbury Meadows, so this is 3 ponds away from my pond.
Right.
What do you plan, if anything, to do with the pond? Do you have any provisions for the pond itself?
Well, I mean, I would like to make it a focal point.
In what way?
What I mean by that is a fountain.
Okay, you hit the nail on the head. The mosquitoes in my pond are ridiculous because of standing water. You gotta put fountains in there because people are gonna be running for the exits because it's just too much standing water. So thank you. Yeah, please add fountains, multiple.
Do we move forward? Okay, so, back in January, I met with Daryl and, Dan Whiting. And I discussed the decks to the rear of the first project. And Dan's comment was he wanted to make sure the bottom of the deck framing was above the floodplain. The structure itself was, the bottom of the structure was above the floodplain. He also wanted to make sure that the, below the decks, that they could be accessible for any maintenance. And we believe that this is an important part of the project. It just enhances the experience, I think, to have another elevation change, another material change, the deck. It's adjacent to the water. And, Dan didn't see any problem with it, but it was a conversation. And so I bring it up because I think we need to, well, I would like to have it, more concrete. So this would, I don't know that this is a zoning change. I think it's just more or less a request for it to be in writing, that Mr. Whiting's suggestions would be followed and that we would want to move forward on that.
Okay. I understand what you're saying. On that, I have no personal problem on the aesthetics or the functionality. I think it makes sense. The only thing I would say, and I think Dana maybe even submitted this, it needs to meet like stormwater, like you can't encroach into stormwater or wetlands and things like that.
Yeah, no, that's exactly the conversation we were having. At one point, there was some talk about maybe putting a corner of the building in the easement, and that, I think, basically we said, no, that's not permitted. But we would allow for the decks to extend into the easement, but again, as long as they're above the floodplain. So to his point, I mean, there's a portion of it, the structure, a post may be sitting in the floodplain, but from the engineer's perspective, that was perfectly acceptable. So yeah, I think staff's recommendation would be to allow this use. I don't know if you do it during the engineering phase or whether we need to get it in the, the plan approval or whatever, but yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, it achieves what he's trying to accomplish, but also doesn't in any way adversely affect the stormwater management. And I think you have an agreement in terms of the pond maintenance. It doesn't adversely affect that either. So I feel like this is win-win.
I know in city council, we do a lot of approvals pending engineering and legal approval. And then, through the approval process, your plans are going and you get it like an actual signature or an approval of that. So in general, I'm not going to push back on this whatsoever. And I think at least the feeling I'm getting is that generally it's accepted.
Okay, on the next page, I'm addressing the landscaping because the building is moving, so we're tossing the feathers, so to speak. And all I'm asking is that I would be allowed to submit my own landscape package when we get to that stage. And I'm referring to a divergent, which is in the original zoning agreement, and that divergence, speaking of my area, which is sub-area A of the overall approval, it contains certain screening requirements to the extent restaurant and food services uses occur in sub-area A. These screening requirements do not meet, and a diversion is required to permit outdoor patios to not be screened. The justification for this divergence is the nature of outdoor patios in such venue and is not typically screened, thereby adding to the ambience of the outdoor experience. So I think that this divergence covers my request to, let me submit the landscape drawings when I get to that place. But with that being said, the lighting package on the outdoor dining space would be a low ambient kind of lighting that you would see on the back of somebody's string lights, on the back of somebody's patio. Any discussions regarding that?
I remember when the original plan came, I had a question on this, and I'll just make sure that question is re-answered, was when you talk about the buffer for the landscape around the outdoor, you're still going to look at using other materials to buffer it, such as you talked about fences, or like, at District 13, they use the black wire fence, or they use other structures to make the buffer instead of landscape. Is that still being incorporated?
Fencing or something like that would be a difficult application because the building is, when it moves over, if we refer back to, well, you could just refer back to the back page, the page that we were talking about, the decking. The building and the outdoor dining space and the decks push it. There's no way to put a fence back there.
The fence was just an example.
Oh, okay.
I was giving you District 13 uses a fence to delineate their screening as their screen to their outdoor food versus the sidewalk versus, a common area. And I can see in your plan here, you are using a fence, kind of like a railing, and you're using plants and everything in the picture.
That drawing is a good drawing. That's my desire, is that concept.
That's what I'm talking about, is the screen. You're using non-landscape material as your screening.
Yes, I just want to make sure I understand what the desire that you have when you say screening. I mean, if you're looking for a specific purpose for the screening to accomplish, and then I feel like I can address
it delineates the patio area from the grass area to mark. I'm looking at delineation of areas.
Well, I think it does do that. And then there'll be some kind of, fencing. I don't know that it's gonna be the wood fencing that is pictured in this drawing here, but there will be fencing along this area, which really is for the purpose of protecting, the kids that are playing over there. That is one of the reasons why we're moving it to the east too, it's to the west. Is because now we've created about this 5,000 square feet of green space. And so I'm trying to buffer that from the parking lot. And then there's woods to the east side, which, little kids could fall back in there and be in a place they shouldn't be. So that's the purpose of that.
Yeah, the other thing I might add, I think, Ms. Miller, you're indicating that, yeah, the fencing may also be a requirement, given that it's an elevated deck as well. So there may be other kind of safety issues associated with that.
Yeah, that probably would be over 2 foot.
Yeah.
I think the gist of it is, looking to make some modifications to the landscape plans, given that the building's moving around. This isn't an uncommon request, and
Right. One of the things we talked about, Alyssa, if you'll continue to kind of go up to the landscape plan, no, the other, whatever, I guess that's down. I don't know why I always say that's up. Whoop. There you go. One thing that the applicant and the staff did talk about is when they shift the building to the left or to the west, though, they try to maintain that additional landscaping though there that's kind of in that where it sort of pinches in that triangle, because there may be a screening element. Yeah.
This space over here.
Right, to kind of, make sure that there's at least some screening to the, to the roadway, that type of thing, which I think the applicant has indicated a willingness to do that. So again, not eliminating all the landscaping, just adjusting based upon the movement of the building.
On the parking requirement,
I wanted to make a comment about before you moved on.
yes, sir.
Can you speak for a minute about the good neighbor policy regarding outside music? Can I hear it from my house? That's a very subjective.
Yeah.
If I want to hear it or if I don't want to hear it, what is there going to be? It's a big patio. Stands to reason people are going to be having some drinks. They're going to want music. Is there going to be live music? Is there going to be, that type of thing? What is your idea about this?
Well, of course, it would be tenant driven, but I think that I think it's probably safe to say that they would want live music on occasion. Maybe that's a weekend thing. I really couldn't tell you specifically, but between you, where you have that apartment complex, substantial buffer between this product and all the residents back in your neighborhood.
I have a question for staff. I wasn't around for the original approval. Is that an approved use?
what an approved use.
Outside music at a commercial development, is that by default permissible?
That is, I don't think by default it is permissible.
Is it required divergence for someone to be permitted to have live music in there?
That I'll have to look into. I know it follows the same, like, watt or decibels coming in have to equal decibels going out. So depending on the area, I don't know if in the original planned commercial district text it addressed that or not, but I can look that up and that'll be within the staff report for our next meeting, whether it is or isn't. And then additionally, on the subject of use, there's also a use change with that building. The phase A building we're talking about, that'll be a brewery. The previous use, the approved use is in the first plan of it was a office space or retail space, I believe. So that
Music.
so that would also be one of the changes and one of the things that needed to be addressed, but I'll make sure we got that while we were talking about uses.
As a resident of this neighborhood, I would like very clear definition of what to expect.
Yes, sir. Have it written down.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Parking? On the original approved plan, there was, maximum building square footage on this particular 4.6 acres, 40,000 square feet. It was, exactly though, it was approved for 39,650 square feet. We reduced the proposed building structures to 34,244 square feet. Now I'm talking about all three phases. So I've reduced the building footprint. And with the contemplated tenant use, the parking calculation before was 242 spaces. And the present site plan and off-street parking provides 194 parking spaces. So we request the zoning approval of the site, based on those calculations. I think that some of the things that should be considered are the fact that this project is close proximity to residents and the apartment complex behind it. There'll be a lot of walking traffic. It's adjacent to the bike path, which is going to lessen vehicle load. And there's additional street parking along Sunbury Meadows now. And it's also close, very close. It's 1,000 feet away from the center of the Sunbury. And I think it's also a consideration. I mean, this is speculation too, because I don't know all the tenant uses. But proposed retail store hours are going to be different, than restaurant hours of business. So hopefully there's a shift in the parking demand through the course of any given day. There is a divergent in the original zoning approval. And that was divergent number 4, which talks about the parking ratio. And it said the applicant provides for a total of 242 spaces for sub-area A, inclusive of the on-street parking spaces on West Granville Street. An efficiency of 86 parking spaces. Subsequently, a parking divergence is required for sub-area A. The justification for this divergence is the lack of end users and users identified for sub-area A. The West Granville Street on-street parking provided by sub-area A applicant. The close proximity to the sub-area A to the village square and nearby housing means more visitors to this area will walk or bike to the location. This matter can be reviewed in more detail at the time sub-area applicant submits for final development plan, so long as this divergence permitted is respected. I think it addresses the shortage of parking, but doing the calculations on it, the original zoning approval allowed for a 26% reduction in the parking spaces. And this new plan falls below, quite a bit below that 26% of the original approved reduced parking spaces. So in summary, I believe the two divergents, one divergent addresses the landscaping and the one divergent that addresses the parking issues should address those two issues that I brought up. I would want the affirmation that indeed that's a true statement. I would like the conversation with Mr. White to be objectified in writing that the decking is approved and acceptable with regards to the restrictions that he had commented to Daryl.
Can I just make one point on that?
Please.
I don't see Dan Whited writing this down as an approval. Aren't we just looking for us to approve the new plan and then subject to engineering approval? Is that kind of how this should work?
To me, that feels like how that works.
Yeah.
And then if we need to, as part of the approval of the engineering plans, I mean, that easement will be reflected there in your construction documents or engineering documents. So I think, Dana, there is a way that we'll be able to document it from an engineering perspective.
I agree with that.
Yep.
The last page is the formal request. to amend the original zoning. And along with that is attached the site plan. And a letter of support from Roman L. Hughes. Because all this area is surrounded by commercial property, so many of these changes are have very little effect on anybody. And as far as the noise factor was a factor that was brought up. That was why I pursued Roman L. Hughes and asked them if they had any comments concerning that, if they, you know, wanted to put some, wanted input into that, some restriction. And he just said, that's why he did a letter of it, said he was excited about the project and, it was considered to be a solid plan. I'm not saying that I don't want to address your concerns on that.
Okay, because just to comment on your last comment there, when I see the original building three position and the new building 3, there was no outdoor patios on the original plan. Is that an accurate statement? That's
an accurate statement.
Okay, so we added this outdoor venue and just created this new live music opportunity.
Yeah,
Fair statement?
well,
You're asking us to create an outdoor dining environment that
Yeah.
didn't exist in the original plan.
Yeah, this isn't, you're making it sound like this is a huge request. Like this happened, I just want to, hold on one second, let me finish. District 13 Firehouse Tavern, I understand they're on the square. These were the types of discussions we had with developers, but we weren't saying like, this is a major overhaul from what the square was intended to be. That's the way it sounds right now. So it is a change, but it's a change because Dane is the one who has to go out and market the property. He owns it. And he's saying there's a demand for that.
That's
And
fine.
then he's bringing it forward. So
I'm responding to his statement that it's not a big change. And he agreed with me when I said there was no outdoor venue and he says, now there is. That's a change. That's the only point I'm trying to make is there is now an outdoor venue. I think it looks good. I'm just trying to clarify what the change is. That's it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm for or against it. I'm trying to clarify what it is. It's a big change in my residential personal opinion.
Okay.
That's it. That's it.
All right, sounds good. Good deal.
I really appreciate.
Yeah, it is.
And thank you for, you know, considering the revision and, I have 3 things down. One is to aerate the pond. Which we're all about, like music concerns. And, the use change. From the original, I think it was retail space. And, I would address that in the next meeting. If that's the procedure.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Donnell. Are there any other comments or questions? All right, sounds good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Not too far of a drive home tonight.
Not too far.
All right, good deal. Staff presentation, density research. Thank you.
Thank you.
Over the past few months, I have been researching residential density within the city. I utilized the Delaware County GIS and the 2023 zoning map to locate all the subdivisions. I split the subdivisions into 3 categories, being past developments, which are from 1843 to 1997. And those are zoning various residential districts, R1, R2, and so forth. Past PRD ranges from 1993 to 2021, and they have a variety of density requirements set forth by PRD zoning. And then 2023 developments are the most current developments that we have, most of which are zoned PRD. There is more in-depth information available about specific subdivisions and different properties. Page 1 of the handout summarizes the number of subdivisions along with the total and average densities for each category and then for the total city. Page 2 shows an average density in a bar graph for comparison. And the purpose of this research is to help understand the changing residential density within the city as previously requested.
Is this available beforehand? Was this in the packet? Okay. I'm having a hard time following. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Set the stage a little bit. This is Maria.
Hi, Maria.
Intern, and I believe it was 2 meetings ago for planning and zoning. There was talk about really trying to do an in-depth look at our density and the history of the density. So we have this is something we want to start collecting data. A lot of busy work. We kind of set the parameters for Maria and we asked her to put something together. Today is Maria's last day before she has exams for LSU. And maybe she'll return next year. But this is like the completion of a project that we gave her. And our intent today is to have you guys receive the information, hear what Maria has researched, and then at the next meeting that we have, after you've taken a look, we would like some feedback and we can go through and see if there's additional information that you'd like us to collect. Are we on the right track for the requests that we heard just a couple months ago?
And then to add to your request, Mayor, there is going to be a much more in-depth Excel sheet sent to all of you to review. This is kind of just spark notes of the whole thing. There's a lot more information that went behind this, so you will have access to all that. And then we're looking for the feedback kind of on all of the data Maria gathered and what you would like to see, and if there's any particular style you want it presented in. That's kind of what we're looking for. So just taking the month to review and then seeing what you guys would like out of it.
What I'm getting at a snapshot, I'm seeing that we've gone from more of a farming community over time to a more residential community. Just looking at the density due to, demand and just farmers selling land and, more people wanting to move to Sunbury. So, I think it shows a pattern that I would expect. So thanks for putting the work in. Mhm. Mhm.
So different blue boxes are like, individual or like a stack bar that add up to the green. Is that right?
Yes.
The 3 blues equal the green.
That's the average.
Okay. Got it.
They're weighted evenly, I guess, based on that.
Yes. Yeah, that's
How-
which one?
How did you pick the time periods, 93 to 2021? What justified that being inappropriate?
So when I was looking, originally I had the 2023 developments all together, and then the current 2023 developments was kind of a separate sheet as handed. When I started researching in there, I saw a big difference once we started seeing PRD zoned sub areas, and so I figured, and the wider sub spreadsheet does show the different information that was available to kind of map out that human density, which is why I decided to separate it that way.
We're gonna get a big Excel spreadsheet, I heard you say?
Yeah, there has to be, because I'm trying to figure this out.
But yes, that'll be sent out tomorrow morning. You guys will have access to that.
Like C2 zoning, I mean, that's just one question. Like, would that be included in here?
It's a good question.
Like Columbus Street is all C2 zoning and residential, but I'm just curious.
This was looking at subdivision. So if you go onto the Delaware County Auditor, and Maria, you can correct me if I'm wrong. It plotted them based on when the subdivision came in, not necessarily based on the zoning. So if that was, I believe that was all platted at the same time, even though it was commercial. So I believe that data would be in there. But once we get you that spreadsheet, we'll be able to go in and double check that as well to see if that specific, I believe that one is in there. If you can remember the commercial off of Columbus. the resident.
Definitely 1 or 2 C2 districts.
Okay, yeah, so yeah, those should be represented in there as well then.
Good luck with your exams.
Here, yeah, good luck. All right, we're on to the visitors section. Are there any visitors that would like to speak with the Planning and Zoning Commission? All right. We're looking for a motion to approve the October 28th, 2024 minutes. I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Grumney. Discussion?
Spelling mistakes. First page, last paragraph. Clarification, I believe that should say previous owner, not precious, although. Then, regarding the approval of the conditional use.
I was on page 1 as well. Approval of conditional.
Yes, same page, yes.
Any other edits? Roll call?
Mayor St. John,
Yes.
Mr. Grumney,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Mrs. Crawford,
Yes.
Mr. Soderman,
Yes.
5 yeas, motion approved.
Good deal. We're on to the zoning report.
Sir, thank you, Mayor. We had 13 new zoning certificates last month, 10 of which were new builds. Last year, we had 12 during the same period of time. We're kind of towards the dead period of the year, so not too many zoning certificates coming in. We had 3 occupancy permits, 4 other permits, all of which were fence. And then our total new builds for the year is up to 171. So we're up 33 on our total from last year. And then we are up 16 total new build certificates from last year on the whole year already, without including December. All the permits this month were all for single family. We didn't have any multifamily or multi-tenant units go into those new builds. And yeah, any questions regarding zoning?
Questions, comments? All right. We're on to discussion, new business. Anything, Mr. Stoddard?
Nothing new.
Mrs. Crawford? Mrs. Miller? Mr. Grumney? All right, good deal. All right, next meeting, December 23rd, 2024.
That still works for all of you. That is still on our schedule.
Good. All right, we'll see you that meeting, and I'll make a motion to adjourn. Second by Mrs. Crawford. Discussion? Roll call?
Mayor St. John,
Yes.
Mrs. Crawford, Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Soderman,
Yes.
Mr. Grumney, 5 yeas, we are adjourned.
Thank you.